Most of war is not the battle. It is the miles. Sweaty days under iron and wool. Socks your mother stitched, now worn through from marching. Another field, another tick burrowing into the skin. Flies everywhere. Another valley, another march. The banners say kingdoms and glory, but we are none of that. We are the small pieces, a single link in a chain that stretches back through generations. Not the anchor, not the breaking point, just another rung. Lever creaks, iron shifts against tired shoulders. Fields passes by. Farmers stop their plows to watch the column. Children stare at the armor like it belongs to giants. Dogs bark at the horses. We march through their world like a storm that hasn't decided to break yet. Another hill. And there it is, a town. Nothing remarkable. Stone walls patched with timber, smoke curling from crooked chimneys, a church tower leaning slightly to one side, bread ovens burning, laundry hanging between windows. Life. The baker wipes flour from his hands and squints at us. A woman gathers her children from the street. They have seen soldiers before. Armies pass through places like this all the time. Most of the time, the war keeps moving. But sometimes the road bends. And months later, the same army returns with fewer banners and far more ghosts. When that happens, the quiet little towns on the road stop being places you pass through. They become places you fight for, or places you burn. And none of us marching today know it yet, but this town, this ordinary, forgettable town, is where the war will find us again. We tracked the men who killed the farmer to an encampment outside the city. Men can hide their tracks, but they rarely hide their hunger. It is hard for soldiers to resist the urge to kill and eat the wildlife along the road. We smelled their camp as soon as we passed the pig farmer's lot. I am sure they thought of that when they chose the ground. The smell of pigs would cover the smoke. A clever thought. But they forgot the other weakness of men, a fire-roasted pheasant. Grease and charred feathers carry farther than discipline. By afternoon, we had them. Steel came out. Their men were not farmers or frightened conscripts. They were soldiers. And when the lines met, it was no skirmish, it was a clash. Men skilled in battle, pressing forward in a brutal, grinding fight. Shields slammed together. Blades searched for the seams in armor. The air filled with dust, sweat, and iron. And the quiet countryside that had watched us march all morning became another field where men came to blood each other. They fell back toward the town. No stolen goods were found in the camp. If they had taken anything from the farmer, it was already gone. We pressed after them. By the time we reached the road, their men were already slipping between the houses. Desperate men prefer walls to open ground. So the fight followed them into the town. Earlier that morning, these streets were quiet. I had bought a goose egg from a cart and looked long at the cheese beside it. Tempting, but I kept my coin. Now the cart lay overturned. The same cheese spilled across the stones, crushed under boots and stained in the dust. Waste. Soon the crows will dine on it. I had been wounded earlier in the crush. A horse burst through the line during the fight at the camp. I was slow enough to feel the weight of it. My breath came shallow, vision blurred. Each breath wheezed through my chest. Still, my legs marched. Every ounce of pain I forced into the grip of my shield. The wood was already cracked down the grain, a reflection of my own soul. So we pushed forward through the narrow streets, following the enemy house to house as the battle rolled deeper into the town. Still, I breathed. So I pushed forward again into the fronds. Rows of planted crops now watered with blood and wrought iron. I kicked, stabbing at the air. My vision blurred. Shapes moved where men should have been. I had to gamble. Which shadow was a branch and which one was a man? Cloth and flesh. Our banner stood. Our captain held fast. We cleared the field and gathered ourselves again. Black and white. Red and white. Black again. Blue flashes of steel. Vegetation bent and whipped around us as bodies crashed through hedges and brush. My ribs screamed. One of them was broken. Then, like arrows, thunder after lightning, came the gallop of hooves. I was trampled again. My armor, already cracked from the first crush, drove me deep into the mud. The broken rib, perhaps now 3, gave way further. Blood poured from my shoulder. My sword barely lifted from the ground. I dragged myself upright. Wheezing did nothing. Too much mud. Suffocation is real. Then I saw them, our riders, allies ahead on horseback, and courage returned. I was alive. My heart still beat. I could see its pulse in the stream of blood running down my leg. Suddenly, blood. It poured down my arm. Warm. Too much. My fingers began to numb as the sword grew heavier in my hand. Still, I swung, landing heavy blows against the enemy before me. Cold iron split across my back. The broken rib sang a higher octave of pain. I turned. The enemy line had driven their warhammers against my plate. Somehow, I still lived. We managed to wrangle the remaining enemies, cornered in the rubble of a broken tower. They had nowhere left to run. Stone walls on 3 sides, our shields on the 4th. It did not last long. Some jumped, some were pushed. The rest we slew where they stood. The tower fell quiet soon after. War ends quickly once a man realizes there is no road left to escape. The soldiers wasted little time. Hands moved through the dead and the fallen, taking what they believed should be theirs. A coin here, a knife there, boots from a man who would no longer need them. Sergeants shouted. Some things claimed for the Lord, some things hidden quickly before they could be seen. Such is the way of victory. Then the horns sounded, and just as quickly as the battle had come to the town, we marched out of it, leaving behind broken stone, empty homes, and the crows already gathering to finish what the war had started. We do not stay long. Armies rarely do. But before we leave, the captains walk the streets, knocking on doors, not asking politely, but asking all the same. But wars have a way of remembering old habits. Now it is quieter, a harvest of bodies, a steady reaping of souls to feed the growing machine of expansion. They call it security. If you survive long enough, you might earn a station. A man who comes willingly might earn more than a handful of silver and the promise of a warm meal. But most do not come willingly. Handfuls are taken by the arm, pulled from farms and workshops. Their pay? Whatever they can carry in their hands after a battle. Even that is uncertain. Sergeants walk the fields afterward, collecting the finer spoils and declaring them property of the Lord. The better swords, the rings, the purses. Those are the first things taken, and the first things traded away in some opportunistic bargain far from the mud and blood where they were found. So the new men learn quickly. If you want something to keep, hide it well. Carry it quietly, because the war may take your life, but the sergeant will take everything else first.